Hi guys, I'm here today with AllycatlovesAG. We have a little collaboration, a little collusion, a little joint effort, and I'm excited for this because I am a very newly christened American Girl collector, and if you couldn't tell from her username, AllycatlovesAG is an American Girl focused channel. It was a great resource when I was first getting into AG, learning all the basics, so if you're at all interested, go check her out, show her some love.
Hi, I'm Allie, and my channel is right now exclusively American Girl content. Who knows, in the future, maybe I'll branch into other doll lines, but I do love watching YouTube videos about dolls in general. So if you like American Girl dolls or just 18-inch dolls in general and want to see unboxings, opinions, and other videos just talking about dolls from an adult collector perspective, then definitely be sure to check out my channel and the video we did on my channel talking about our opinions on different American Girl dolls.
So, something I've noticed about getting into AG is that it is definitely very expensive. For reference, one AG doll usually runs about 115 US dollars, and that's just the basic doll package. You can also factor in accessories, pets, playsets, extra outfits, etc, etc. When it comes to dolls, I'm definitely more of a playline collector. I have collector dolls, of course, but I'm definitely not used to dropping $100 on just a single doll. And when it comes to dolls, there's so many different factors that goes into pricing, and there's such a wide range of prices at any level. Playline prices vary so much. There's playline dolls that cost as much as collector dolls. There's collector and luxury dolls that go anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand, etc, etc. So I guess my first question for you is, and I know this is very broad, but do you as an AG collector believe that American Girl dolls are worth the price?
I think compared to other 18-inch dolls, being around $115 is the average price for a doll of the quality of American Girl. Another similar line at a similar price would be Maple Leaf dolls, which are pretty much the Canadian version of American Girl dolls. I don't own any of them, but I have cousins who own them, and they are very similar in terms of being made out of vinyl, and the prices for outfits and the dolls are similar. Now, if you compare this to other more cost-effective 18-inch dolls such as My Life or Our Generation, those retail for around, I think, $30 to $50 USD, depending on how many accessories the dolls come with, but you can tell that there is a difference in quality. I have some Our Generation dolls, and their vinyl is a bit squishier than an American Girl doll. American Girl clothing, for the most part, is better quality than other 18-inch doll brands such as Our Generation. So I think if you have the money to spend on an American Girl doll, go for it. I'm just so used to the price point at this point. And there's definitely ways to save on American Girl dolls, such as getting them if they ever go on sale, or getting a benefit sale doll or a used doll. But if you want a new doll and you don't really want to pay the price, or you don't care if it's necessarily an on-brand American Girl doll, there are cheaper options out there.
Okay, so follow-up question. Are there any doll brands that you're interested in outside of AG? If so, how do you think they measure up price-wise? Do you think compared to AG, they're priced more fairly, unfairly? Again, I know that's a pretty broad question, but
nowadays, even though I only collect American Girl, a lot of my friends have been collecting Rainbow High dolls, and I noticed there's a lot of overlap between the American Girl community and Rainbow High community in terms of users who collect both. So I have been looking into Rainbow High dolls because my friends keep asking me what one I would get if I bought one, and I'm very close to buying one. Compared to Barbie dolls, those dolls are quite expensive for a 10 to 12-inch fashion doll. I believe they're around $50 Canadian, which is quite expensive. But if you look at videos of unboxings of Rainbow High dolls compared to things like Barbie, Rainbow High is a lot more detailed. The clothing is not stuck together, and there's real working zippers, and a lot of Barbie items nowadays are just printed on pieces of fabric. They're really lazy even compared to the Barbies I had growing up in the 2000s. I think American Girl being a bigger doll, it requires more fabric, and they have some details like wigs, which require, more hair. They require stuffing compared to just plastic. Rainbow High for a 10 to 12-inch doll is definitely on the more expensive side. So I think maybe if the prices were a little bit cheaper, and even with American Girl in recent years, the quality hasn't been as good as it was in Pleasant Company days. So I think the prices should be a little bit cheaper. but I think the dolls have also like categorized themselves as for like being different from being for different social classes. Like American Girl is very much seen as like a rich person's doll.
Yeah, and the price for AG is something that kept me from collecting them for a long time, even though I was like peeking in from the sidelines at them. But as soon as I got one and was able to hold it in my hand, I could see where a lot of that price like goes, especially the older dolls. I have a Pleasant Company era Samantha, and her clothes are like actual human clothes, just scaled down to doll size as far as the construction goes. It's really impressive. So for the meat of the video, I have a few other dolls here that I want to share with you. I have their prices, and I just want to talk about like if they're worth this price, what goes into them being priced as much as they are, and maybe like in what our opinion separates Playline from collector and more luxury type dolls. The first brand I want to share is probably the most topical when it comes to prices, and that's Rainbow High. Specifically, I want to talk about the Chinese New Year collector's doll, Lily Chang. So she was priced at $80 originally, and I wanted to kick off with her because I think she is very much considered one of the most top tier RH dolls. Like, many collectors will consider Lily Rainbow High at its peak, and I kind of agree. I have her, and she is probably one of my favorite dolls. So, just looking at her, do you think she is worth $80?
Knowing how much like regular Rainbow High dolls are priced at, her being like a bit more of a deluxe doll makes sense. So I'm not surprised that she's 80, but it's also just hard for me to picture 10 to 12 inch dolls being that expensive, since that's what I grew up on, and I'm so used to them being like Barbie level quality and like cheaper. But knowing it's Rainbow High, I know that there's a bunch of details in the outfits and different fabrics and textures. Her wig even looks, I guess not wig, I'm so used to saying wig. I think their hair is rooted, right?
Yeah.
So her hair even looks super unique with all the different colors. I love that she comes with a fan. And she also has really fancy packaging compared to other dolls, which definitely makes her seem like more of a collector keepsake type of item. So overall, would I pay $80 for her? Probably not. But knowing the price of a regular Rainbow High doll and knowing that she's like a deluxe doll, I feel like $80 is a pretty fair price for this doll.
And something that's a little controversial about like MGA dolls specifically is that they love to really hype up collector's editions, or say they're limited edition when they're not technically. Like, Lily is technically a Playline doll. She's not a collector's level doll, even though I can argue her quality is on that par. But, like, something really funny about this is, like, with Bratz, for instance, in their run in the early 2000s on their boxes, they would say, like, special, limited edition, number whatever out of 400,000. That's not limited edition.
Yeah. I still see her as more of a Playline doll with how much she's mentioned as being, like, part of the whole Rainbow High crew. But thinking back to like if I was a kid in the 2000s and these dolls were out, my parents probably would not pay $80 for this doll. Even with my first American Girl doll, it was money that I had saved up for years in order to get that doll. I'm curious though, in like, I don't think there's statistics on this, but I'm curious if there's any stats on what were the demographics that purchased this doll. Was it mostly like given to kids, or how many adult collectors got this doll? Because I know she was very popular with the adult collectors.
Yeah, that's something I'm kind of interested in too, as far as Rainbow High goes, just how much of the sales are from collectors. Because usually when people estimate it, I think they underestimate it a little bit. People usually say around 10% are collectors, but I think for the price level Rainbow High is at, I think the majority, not a majority, but probably a third or around that is collectors, I think. But I do wonder if, like, as it goes on, as the prices go up, if Rainbow High will become to be considered more of an upper class doll in the way American Girl is. They are more accessible in that you can go into any Target or Walmart and get them, but I imagine for parents buying them for kids, it takes a lot of convincing for how expensive they are.
I will say this though, because I work with kids and I love to find out what doll lines they are into as a doll enthusiast myself. So I this summer, I just finished my last day of work yesterday. I was asking kids, hey, what dolls are you into? Or like what TV shows? And so many kids said they loved Rainbow High dolls and they were telling me their favorite dolls. So I never knew it was this popular with kids, probably because I'm so used to being around adult collectors. So I guess there definitely is a market for kids and these dolls. But I think it depends because over the years, the quality might start to go down, like with a lot of doll lines.
After Lily, we have a slightly more controversial one, the more recent collector's doll, Maria Garcia for Dia de Muertos, and she is 130 US dollars, so she actually costs more than a standard AG doll.
I did watch one of my friend's videos talking about this doll the other day, so I did hear she's controversial. I feel like compared to the doll that you just showed me, Lily, she doesn't come with as many accessories. So I think for this price, they should have at least included a second outfit. She doesn't have as many accessories. So I would definitely go for Lily Chang over this doll. I think the detail, I really love the hat because I never really see a doll sombrero and it looks like it's made out of fabric, which is nice. But yeah, I just feel like she could have come with so much more for the price that she is. And even for Rainbow High, like she's very much all over the place color scheme wise, so it doesn't even give rainbow vibes. I wish her hair was like red, so it would be at least like a monochromatic red type of doll with gold accents. But yeah, it's just not worth the price for me.
I personally don't think Maria is worth this price either. Like, I genuinely don't see where in the doll that price is reflected. She comes with way less stuff than Lily, like you said, and it really hasn't been long enough that we can blame inflation. But the thing with Rainbow High is that the prices are so, like, completely made up. I genuinely don't know where they come from. Like, recently they released these little blind boxes that contain either a purse or a pair of shoes, and they are each $10. So you can buy 3 or 4 of them and pay as much as you would just for a regular doll. Like, how does that make sense?
Yeah. At least with American Girl, pricing is somewhat like consistent, I feel.
So now I want to switch over to the more budget side of dolls, the lower price range. And I'm going to kind of group them together because I think looking at each individually, it's easy to say like, yeah, this is worth $5. So it's probably easier to just compare them. So this is Dream Ella. She's made by the same company as Rainbow High, MGA. She was originally $9. This is a Hair Amazing from Just Play, which is around $5 individually. And this is a Barbie Fashionista, which is usually around $9 to $12. So let's just say you had like $10 and had to choose between these three. Which would it be?
Okay, so I think I would definitely go with Barbie Fashionista just because that's the line I'm most familiar with. I grew up with Barbie dolls, the original Fashionista line. I loved them, always wanted them as a kid. But I think in terms of outfits that are like trendy, even though the quality is not the best for Barbie, from far away, these outfits look, really trendy and something I would want to dress my dolls in. Like, I wish they weren't just printed on fabric or printed on details. But I've seen videos too where with like shoes, for example, people will go in with paint and add more details. And I think that's a great way to like elevate these more budget dolls. And I also just love the diversity in the Fashionista line. There's dolls with colored hair, dolls with like, what's it called? Vitiligo, right? So yeah, from far away, these dolls look good. And there's definitely some really cute pieces here. Hair Amazing, their clothing looks a lot cheaper. I can just tell by the look of the fabric. They look very shiny. None of the seams look finished, which is kind of annoying. I'm also not a big fan of brightly colored hair on dolls unless you're going for, the whole Rainbow High rainbow theme. I see some different diverse skin tones, which I like. Oh no, their legs even look like painted on tights, not even removable. I hate that. I had a few Barbie dolls with like painted on tights and I hate that. So they definitely look cheaper than the Fashionistas. And then as for that first doll line, I like that their outfits, at least in the photo you sent, are like realistic careers. Definitely cool pieces. And if these fit things like Barbie dolls, that's a great way to, have a neutral looking chef outfit, not like a bright pink one. Quality does look pretty cheap, but it seems like all the pieces are separate and that is a good thing. And there's some really cute accessories too. Like that dog is really cute. I'm not a huge fan of the face sculpt, but I really like the texture on the African-American hair. It looks really cool. So I think my ranking would be number 1, Fashionistas, cute outfits. They look really good. Second would be these, I believe, Dream Ella dolls. I like the realism and the pieces look to be separate, which I like. And then third for me is Hair Amazing. It's just not my type of doll line and I do not like the painted on leggings.
Something I think collectors tend to forget is that budget dolls are like really important. They're pretty easy punching bags, especially if you're used to more high quality dolls. Like obviously you can look at these and know they're not quite as fun as more expensive dolls, but when it comes to value, they're kind of winning, right? Especially as dolls are getting more and more expensive, not everyone can afford them, especially children or people who are buying dolls for children. Like if you're buying for someone who doesn't necessarily care about, say, polypropylene hair versus nylon hair, or if there's a bunch of working zippers, would you buy one rainbow eye doll, or 3 Barbie fashionistas, or 6 hair amazing doll?
I think that thinking back to when I was a kid, I just got a doll because they were pretty. So the price didn't really affect me that much because normally I would pick out a doll to get as a gift or something. So, and also just seeing the way that kids can ruin, quote unquote, their dolls. Like I've seen so many children carrying American Girl dolls and their hair is like beaten up. And I'm like, parents, why would you get your child a really expensive doll if they're just going to ruin it? So I think these budget dolls are great for, kids who maybe they want to get a lot of dolls and they might not take the best care of them. And I think they're also great to use as like a test. For example, if you got like an Our Generation doll, just to see, hey, can you take care of a doll? And then if they can take care of the doll, then get them a more expensive one or wait till they're slightly older. So I think some dolls are definitely more popular with the adult collectors. Some dolls, like, please don't buy your child a $50 doll if they're going to ruin it. So yeah.
Yeah. But speaking of Barbie, I want to show a collector's Barbie set, the Barbie Style Fashion Studio set, which was sold for 150 USD to Barbie signature members. And as an AG collector, I'm sure you are no stranger to like world building playsets and dioramas and such. Do you usually buy like the playsets?
I really just buy the dolls from American Girl and occasionally accessories. Like the furniture and stuff, it's just too expensive for me. And I prefer getting my furniture from other brands like Our Generation. Our Generation, it's decent quality and you can get a lot of like basics, like for example, a white bed frame and then just sew your own sheets and make it your style. And with clothing, I like to stick to American Girl because I know it will fit my doll properly, but I'm not a fan of a lot of the things they release. So I also get a lot of my clothing items from Etsy. Supporting small businesses is always great. I'm not a big like world building person. I'm more of a here's a doll, here's a cute outfit, let's display them type of person.
Yeah, that makes sense. And this one, she really only comes with the vanity and the chair and some accessories aside from the clothes. But hey, it lights up. That's pretty fun. Just to insert my own opinion as someone pretty familiar with Barbie, like, no, I would not pay $150 for this. Maybe 70, maybe up to 100, but that's really pushing it. But to be honest, I wouldn't really buy this to begin with.
I like that it's a realistic colored vanity because I feel like a lot of doll vanities are like bright pink or something. And just thinking back to the Barbies I had as a kid, like if we're talking furniture, this is probably plastic, which means that it definitely did not cost that much money to make compared to if this was made out of a material like wood. Yes, the lighting is cool, but I had Barbie items growing up that had like sound effects and things like that were way cheaper. The doll, I mean, there's nothing too special about it. It's, a very classic Barbie looking doll. Her outfits, I mean, they're cool, but they don't look to be as detailed as Rainbow High. I mean, it's cute. It's a cute set. For me, I see this being like $50, not $150. I'm curious where they got that price from, but it just looks way less detailed than something that you can get for cheaper, like Rainbow High. This just doesn't look to be the quality I want to see for an $159.99 item.
Next, I want to take a look at an Integrity Toys doll. Integrity Toys is very much like the market standard when it comes to collector dolls for adults. I actually do consider them to be kind of cut from the same cloth as AG. AG is like the poster child for luxury dolls for children. IT is the poster child for adults. They're pretty similar price points too, so they're interesting to compare.
Back when Kappa first started, My Froggy Stuff, they were trying to figure out how to brand their channel as like more of an adult collecting channel. So they kind of stopped using Barbies and using more adult collector Integrity Choice dolls and like really emphasizing the whole adult collector aspect to them.
So this is Anya from the New Fantasy Collection. She was released this year at $220 US, which as far as I can tell is kind of the upper limit on IT prices for an individual doll.
She's a really beautiful doll. I think her dress is stunning. I love all the layers of tulle, and I can see a lot of detail, which is like straight up way better than the Barbie dress you just showed me. I love her light skin tone with her dark hair. Her face mold looks really intricate. So the details are stunning. Would I pay that much money for her? Probably not, because I feel like she's just, I don't know. She's a display doll, but I feel like for a display doll of this scale, I wouldn't want to pay over $100 for her. I think she's a stunning doll to look at. It's just, I would not drop that much money on this doll. As for if she's worth the price, I mean, the dress looks stunning, and I know sewing is very taxing, and especially sewing something this detailed on a tiny scale is really impressive. But I don't think I would pay more than an American Girl doll for this doll.
I do kind of agree, like, for this doll specifically, I can definitely see the price, like, where it comes into her. And I'm not going to say, oh, she's not worth that much. It's more like, am I willing to pay that much? And usually the answer is no. Obviously, a lot of doll prices comes down to fabric quality, hair type, accessories, details, etc. That's easy. Even if you don't necessarily agree that she's worth $220, I can still look at her jewelry, at the construction of her dress, and still know, like, oh, she's expensive. There are some factors I think some people don't think about that often, though. One is exclusivity. I do honestly think a big portion of why IT dolls are so expensive is because they're very much treated like this exclusive club, and some collectors hate this. But for some people, I think that's part of the appeal. They like feeling like they're owning something exclusive, and they're willing to pay a premium for that.
I think especially since this line is directed solely towards adult collectors and not really for children, its fan base is made up of people who are willing to spend this much on a doll and willing to have a collection of these expensive dolls. I think the price makes sense giving that's an adult collector fan base, but I don't think I would want to get into this doll line just because it's so expensive.
Yeah, and another interesting factor is longevity. So both IT and AG, they're kind of built to last. Like, they probably won't survive if you just throw them against the wall or run over them or anything. But if you take care of them, they'll last a really, really long time. They're very substantial like that. Whereas some playline dolls, most really, they just kind of naturally degrade over time due to the quality of the materials. There's not a lot you can do about it except kind of delay it for as long as possible.
No, a lot of my Barbie dolls, I still have a lot of them from when I was little, but their hair, it's kind of naughty from when I played with it. Skin's definitely dirty. But my American Girl dolls, even my first one, is still in decent condition. She just has like a few split ends, and I have to clean her skin a bit more in depth because it's quite dirty.
So we're gonna up the ante a little bit. These are smart dolls, and these are priced at around $500 US, and they're actually about 2 feet tall.
This is another doll line I'm quite familiar with. Back when they first came out, they were really big in the American Girl community, probably because they're also really tall dolls. I've never seen one in person, but this really popular American Girl Etsy shop started shifting their focus to smart doll clothing items, and that's what they mainly do nowadays. Straight up off the bat, I love the diversity. I'm seeing so many dolls with like vitiligo and other really cool unique skin tones. I love the different like hair combinations with their bodies, and I know the quality of these dolls is really good. So this is another doll line that I believe is directed towards adult collectors, so having a higher price point makes sense. And I know that there's really good quality. They're good quality. So I think the dolls itself, I'm okay with the price of. It's really the accessories that get me, because I've seen that like a single t-shirt, which is pretty basic, will be like $50 or something. So I think in terms of doll clothing, it's better to get them from like Etsy shops or sew your own, because they're crazy expensive. The dolls themselves, they're just really good quality that I would pay that much for one. But yeah, the accessories is a whole other story for me.
And what's interesting about these is that I think you're definitely buying a doll to make like a personal connection to it, much like with AG. And the company really, really encourages this. I can't really go into it in this video, but the website is incredibly open about the process of making and designing them, how the company itself operates, even about the pricing. It's pretty interesting.
I would want one, but they're really expensive. And I know they would fit in well with having American Girl dolls, but since I haven't seen one of these dolls in real life, just trying to picture a doll that from like far away looks like it would be like a 10 to 12 inch doll with the build of it next to like an 18-inch doll is something that's like hard for me to do. So I don't think I would buy one, but I can fully acknowledge like that craftsmanship is really cool as well.
And you can definitely tell just reading the website that they use like really high quality materials, and a lot of work goes into like each doll individually to ensure that they're not making them like as fast as possible or pushing them out like a factory. They put a lot of care into each doll. Like when you buy one, you get conversations with the people making them, even the owner, to ensure like, you know, you're not wasting $500, that you're getting what you want, which I think is really cool of the company.
I think that's really awesome. And having that like human connection is another way to definitely help justify that $500 price. Cause you got to think about all of the employees. It's probably not just cheap labor. Like these dolls are probably getting hand painted and everything's being like sewn by hand, not just like a cheap factory. So yeah, I can definitely respect the price for these dolls. And I think they're stunning. So yeah.
Okay, so we're staying in Japan for this next one, walking on over to the ball-jointed doll market, which admittedly I'm not super familiar with, but this next one is a Super Dollfie by Volks, which is still somewhat considered here in the fashion doll world, but this was a collaboration with Disney, a Cinderella doll released in, I believe, 2020, and I just want you to guess how much this doll sold for.
Okay, this is beautiful. Cinderella was like one of my very first. I called her a Barbie, but it was probably like, no, it would have been Mattel. Not Barbie, but she was a Barbie to me. So seeing a Cinderella doll is very nostalgic. And I also just grew up on that movie. I love that the dress is like full on a princess dress. I'm so used to seeing the cheap Disney princess dolls in videos that's like a painted on top and not even a ball gown skirt. It's just like a flat skirt. So the quality looks really good. I love the earrings, the choker, the headband, and all of that. And her gloves are really pretty too. Like everything looks good quality. Now, knowing that this is a ball jointed doll from Japan, I feel like this is going to be quite expensive. Just comparing this to a smart doll in my head. So I think in Canadian dollars, by the way. So my guess might be off. But I would say maybe like, $300-$400.
So at launch, she cost 118,000 yen, which at the time was around 1,100 US dollars.
I was scared to guess that high because I was like, that'd be crazy, but no, this is crazy. Definitely will not be purchasing her. I think that there are other more affordable Cinderella dolls out there that are still good quality. Like there's that whole Disney designer line, which I believe is like a more collector oriented line. I think if you're like a serious Cinderella fan or a serious ball jointed doll fan, go for it. And if you're willing to spend that much money on this doll, I think she's a piece of art and really pretty. But yeah, it's definitely too expensive for me, but the craftsmanship is definitely there.
Yeah, something I hear about BJDs pretty often is that they are not very profitable to make or sell. Their manufacturing cost is extremely high, and in Japan, manufacturing costs are already inherently very high. I don't know if that's true for Volks because they are a pretty staple company, but I do think BJDs rely a lot on a solid fan base, again, that exclusivity aspect, and probably the sales of clothing and accessories to even out.
Like, hopefully the doll's not going to break on you. The face paint looks stunning. And there's definitely, you know, a market, as you said, for these types of dolls. But as someone who, you know, is still a college student and does not really have $1,000 to use on a doll, it's not for me.
Yeah, as amazing and high quality as this doll looks, I honestly do not ever see myself paying $1,000 for one doll. Maybe if I was like a billionaire, I would consider it. But I do think when dolls reach this particular price, they become more like a status symbol. Like, there are probably 300 different Cinderella dolls to choose from on the market at any given time, so what draws someone to one that costs $1,100? And that's not something I say to judge people who buy these dolls. Like, if you're able to afford dolls like this, I'm genuinely curious about hearing, like, what makes you want to own them, if you think they're worth the price. Because maybe it does just come down to, like, being able to hold them in your hand and feel the quality. Maybe that makes all the difference. I don't know.
Like, the only thing I can think of is like those videos of people who have like extreme collections of like Cinderella merch, for example. And since they spend so much money on their collection, it would be a no-brainer to get this expensive doll because it's like their joy and pride to get this Cinderella doll. But as someone who's just like a general doll fan, I don't really feel connected enough to Cinderella to get this doll. Now, if you're asking, it's either this doll or one of those cheap Hasbro, or I guess now they're Mattel again dolls. That's a whole other question. Maybe I would pay for the quality. But I think with like princess dolls, there's a lot of like different options at different price points and varying qualities. So you can definitely get a good quality doll for way less money than $1,000.
Well, that's all the dolls I wanted to show for today. Thank you so much for coming on here. Thank you so much for chatting about dolls with me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
So for all the people watching down below, be sure to comment and tell me, what's your upper price limit for a doll? Are you paying over $1,000 for one? Are you sticking to the Barbies and the Dream Ellas? I'd love to hear about it. And when you're done with that, just be sure to like and subscribe for any future fashion doll content. Be sure to also like and subscribe to AllycatlovesAG's channel. And thanks so much for watching.